Welcome back to our next English lesson, and we're going to plan the last part of our non-chronological report today, and I'll go through that at the end of the lesson. The first thing we're going to look at is our next bit of grammar. And yesterday we looked at determiners and how they could be used in sentences, what they were, and the different types that there were. And today we're going to look at our pronouns, and we're going to think about when they're used, and the different types there are, because there's quite a lot of different types of pronouns that are used in different ways. The interesting thing is that generally speaking, when you're talking, you use them naturally. So it's just a matter of knowing what they are and being able to identify them in a sentence and thinking about when it would be applicable to use them. So a pronoun is a word that's used instead of a noun. And it's either to replace it or to replace a specific person or thing. So the pronoun is the word that takes the place of the noun. So in this sentence, Anna ate her tea when she got home. The noun is Anna, and the two pronouns that are used in this sentence are her and she. So Anna ate Anna's tea when Anna got home. It could be. But that's a lot of Anna, and you're repeating it a lot. So in order to cut down the amount of repetition and to allow for possession easier, rather than say Anna's, just her tea, you can use pronouns. And very often this has to be linked to a noun either in the current sentence or a sentence beforehand. So they must know who you're referring to when you use a pronoun. So there are 7 types of pronouns, and they're used at different times for different purposes. The first one is a personal pronoun. It's used quite a lot and it's used in a sentence above. And a personal pronoun represent people, places, or things. And so examples of those are I, you, he, she, it, including her, us, them, when referring to an object. We also have possessive pronouns. So this is when the noun that you would be putting into there owns whatever you're talking about. So these show ownership and replace possessive noun phrases. So you're talking about Anna's tea. We can replace it just with her, and that reduces the complexity of a sentence, but also the number of words as well. So we've got mine, yours, his, hers, its, ours, their, yours, and theirs. We have relative pronouns. And these link one part of a sentence to another by introducing a relative clause that describes an earlier noun or pronoun. So the types of ones: who, whom, whose, which, that, or what. So when you're thinking along your sentences, when you add a which clause in, you're referring to a previous noun. The boy with the blue shirt, which was running down the road, or the boy which was wearing a blue shirt was running down the road. The which is a pronoun that refers back to the boy, no matter where you put that in the sentence. A demonstrative pronoun. And these function as subjects or objects in a sentence, replacing the noun. So these are things like this, that, these, and those. So that's TV, or this stand. What you're trying to do is you're not having to use the noun to do it. You are replacing the subjects or objects of a sentence with that noun. So after you've said whatever it is, you can then use one of these to refer back to that noun. So the TV that stood in the corner, you can use in that regard. Then you've got reflexive pronouns. So these refer back to an earlier noun or pronoun in a sentence. So the performing and receiving of an action is applied to that person or thing. So it's when you're talking in a sentence and you think about a person and you're describing them, and then you refer back to them when they're doing something. So myself, yourself, himself, herself, ourself, or their self. So Anna looked in the mirror, or Anna was holding a hairbrush, looking at herself in the mirror, would be how it works. You could say, and that links. So the looking at herself part links back to her holding the brush. Interrogative pronouns, and these are used to ask a question or represent an unknown subject or object. So very much like we had a determiner, which is an interrogative determiner, we can also have an interrogative pronoun, and these are things like who, whom, what, which, and those. And you can see that these link quite closely with relative pronouns. So relative pronouns is when you add that information into a sentence. An interrogative pronoun was when you're asking the question, trying to get that information. And then you have an indefinite pronoun. So these do not refer to any specific person, but take the place of nouns in sentences. So it can be more than one person or place. So these are somebody, someone, something, anyone, anything, nothing, another, some, few, and relate quite closely when we were thinking about some of our determiners as well, when we talk about quantitative ones, because some of these link straight into those. And some, depending on how these words are used in a sentence, they may be qualifiers rather than pronouns, or they could be pronouns. They can be used in either way, depending on what they're linked with. If the noun is there, it's normally a qualifier. If the noun isn't there, it's an indefinite pronoun. So let's have a go at seeing what we can do. So what I'm going to do, give you two sentences, and then you're going to see whether you can replace the nouns correctly with pronouns, and think about whether you need to or whether you don't. So the first one is: the cat ate the food because the cat was hungry. And the police arrived and the police arrested the burglar. Have a go. Pause now and have a think. Okay, so the first thing we need to think about is where the nouns are. So we've got cat, the food. The food is a noun. The cat was hungry. So the cat again. We've got two cats and not one food. And in the second sentence, we've got police, the police again, and the burglar. So it's what we can use a pronoun for. So we can say the cat ate the food because it was hungry. The it refers back to the cat, not to the food. And the police arrived and they arrested the burglar. Now we can't change the burglar because we only refer to it once, and we need to know that, because we couldn't say and arrested them unless we had talked about in a previous sentence about the burglar. So if our previous sentence was talking about the burglar sneaking into a house, and then you came on to saying the police arrived and they arrested them, you could use it then, because the reader can link that pronoun back to a previous noun. Whereas on a sentence alone like this, they don't have that ability. The cat ate the food because it was hungry. The food we can't change because we only have in one instance of it, but the cat we can, because we can know that the it refers back to the cat. Now I've got a challenge for you. So I'll read the sentence for you, and then you're going to look through and see whether you can change any of the nouns to pronouns. So here's our sentence. The Queen told the King that the Queen wanted the King to buy the Queen a diamond crown for the Queen and the King's wedding anniversary. Gets confusing because of the repetition of the words. So see if you can't fix it. Pause now and have a go. Okay, so this can be quite difficult because there's lots of nouns in here. So we've got the Queen, the King, the Queen again, the King again, the Queen again, the diamond crown, the King and Queen. So there's a lot of nouns. So the way to work it is you change parts of it. The Queen told the King, so we have both of those two nouns and they're established now. We know the Queen is a she, and we know the King is a him. So when we refer to a she, we are referring to the Queen. When we're referring to him, we're referring to the King. And there, because we've talked about the two people in the sentence, the King and Queen, there then is a plural collective noun, which pronoun, which links back to the King and Queen. So the Queen told the King that she wanted him to buy her a diamond crown for their wedding anniversary. First off, it reads so much easier. Think back to this one. The Queen told the King that the Queen wanted the King to buy the Queen a diamond crown for the Queen and the King's wedding anniversary. It gets confusing because of the repetition. Whereas when we change it, it makes the sentence so much easier to understand. The Queen told the King that she wanted him to buy her a diamond crown for their wedding anniversary. And that's how we would say it. We wouldn't repeat the nouns all the time throughout the sentences. So pronouns are quite natural in the way in which you talk. You just have to think about how you're applying them into a sentence. So pronouns are convenient. They're great words. And without them, we would always be repeating the noun all the time, which would be highly irritating and, little say, quite difficult to understand. So what I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you a paragraph. And your job is to go through that paragraph and to change some of the nouns into pronouns where you think it's appropriate. I'm then going to show you an example of how it could be done. Now, that's not to say it's the only way, but it is a way of doing it. So here's our paragraph. Annabelle took Annabelle's hair out of Annabelle's hair's ponytail and brushed Annabelle's hairs carefully. Then Annabelle studied Annabelle in the mirror. Annabelle said out loud, considering Annabelle's tanned face. If Annabelle's going to make Annabelle look like a ghost for Halloween, Annabelle's going to need some seriously thick white face paint. And as you can tell, first off, it's hard to read because you're saying Annabelle all the time. But second, it's also hard just to understand what it's trying to get across to the reader. We get so caught up in trying to understand what it's talking about that we don't necessarily take the whole thing in. So have a go. Think about what nouns there are in there and whether it's the first time or whether you can link it to what the person or the initial noun. One rule I would normally go with is you at least need to define the noun every now and then within the paragraph. If your paragraph is short, maybe once or twice. But at the start of a paragraph, you need to make sure you tell the reader who you're talking about in the new paragraph, because a paragraph can be a change of place or time. Pause now and have a go. Okay, so let's have a look at the example that I've done. So here it is. All the words in green are the ones I've changed. So Annabelle took her hair out of her ponytail. Yeah, so let's have a look at it. Annabelle took Annabelle's hair out of Annabelle's hair's ponytail. So Annabelle took her hair out of her ponytail band. I've added the word in band there just to make it more, to clarify it. And brushed it carefully. And in the other version, it's and brushed Annabelle's hair carefully. Now I can actually say Annabelle's hair is an object itself, which I'm replacing with it. So that could also there be green. Then Annabelle studied herself in the mirror. I've used Annabelle again. It's a new sentence, but also it's quite a long time since I've said it before, so I put it back in again. And you could, if you had changed that, then she studied herself in the mirror, it would make perfect sense because you have talked about Annabelle before. And this is the thing about pronouns. It does depend on what else you're talking about and how confusing it does get. But if you read it back through and you know what you're talking about, and you can see that it links back to the previous noun, that's fine as well. She said out loud, considering her tanned face. If I'm going to make myself look like a ghost at Halloween, I'm going to need some seriously thick white face paint. There's a few bits in here. First off, I haven't mentioned Annabelle again because this is her talking to herself. And as long as we know that, that's fine. We know we talked about Annabelle twice before in a previous paragraph or before the speech. So we know this must link to that. We've also said that she said it out loud, so we know it's linking to that. We know she's looking in the mirror, so we know that she might be considering her tanned face. So we don't need the two Annabelles at the start. We can replace them with she and her. Then, if Annabelle's going to make Annabelle look like a ghost for Halloween, is the next bit. If I'm, so actually that should be green as well, sorry. If I'm going to make myself look like a ghost for Halloween, the I'm is referring to herself rather than saying if Annabelle's going to make herself. So rather than refer to yourself in the third person, which is a bit weird, you normally refer to yourself in the person. So I am going to make myself rather than Annabelle's look like. So make myself look like it goes for Halloween. Again, Annabelle is going to be, don't need to refer to yourself in the third person. I'm going to need some seriously thick white face paint. And you can see that it's just so much easier to read with the pronouns as without the pronouns. And generally speaking, when you think of a sentence, you naturally use these. You just need to think about the times at which sometimes you might repeat a noun too often, at which point you can then go back and change one of those nouns to a pronoun. And that's the trick. It's rereading your own work to see whether or not you've repeated something too much. So, on to our main task. Today you're going to plan your title and introduction. You're going to think about what pictures and captions you might use and decide whether you want to add a fact box and what would go in your fact box. Obviously, you'll need to link this to research. You've got your 2 information paragraphs, so you can link the pictures to the information paragraphs. The introduction links to the information paragraphs. The title is your overall part, and your fact box could be something entirely independent, just about Vikings. Remember, it's only a plan, so you could think of actually the picture and find the picture, but you only need to plan the details for the caption and the introduction. So let's go. This is back to our box up. We've done paragraph 1 and 2, and hopefully 3 and 4 now. So the ones we're looking at are these bits in the middle here: the title, introduction, picture, caption, fact box. And the other bit that we're looking at here is the final paragraph. Now, I'll talk through that in a second. So first, the title introduction. The title tells the reader what the whole report is about. The introduction paragraph explains what things are going to be discussed. So the reason we plan the information paragraphs first is because that helps us write our introduction, which introduces the subject and links to what those paragraphs are going to talk about. Next, you've got images and diagrams. You just choose one to help the reader understand information from the texts with a visual prompt, a caption or a key in order to explain what is being shown in that image or diagram. And then you could add a fact box with additional information which is separate from everything else, apart from it links to the idea of what the report's about. And finally, the finishing paragraph. So this box up is a generic box up that will work for any non-chronological report. In this case, quite often with historic non-chronological reports, you don't have a final paragraph because it can be quite difficult to link the information to modern day or to the real life situation or to the reader. Now, you might be able to, but don't worry too much about this part in this non-chronological report. So once again, this box up is a link in our Teams chat. It's under links and meetings, so you can get it from there and use it from there. Good luck. And I would like to see your plans up on Tapestry. So good luck. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.